Good morning and welcome to the Mini Storage Messenger Self-Storage Webinar Series. I'm Poppy Behrens, publisher at Minico, and we'd like to thank you for joining us for today's informative webinar. The sponsor of today's webinar is PhoneSmart, a sales support and call center serving self-storage businesses in North America. PhoneSmart has created more than 750,000 reservations and leads for its self-storage clients in its 10 years of operation. Our presenter is Tron Jordheim, Director of Operations for PhoneSmart and author of the great book, Rent It Up, 4 Steps to Unlocking the Profit Potential in Your Self-Storage Business. If you're joining us for the first time, Minico is the publisher of the Mini Storage Messenger, a monthly publication that provides the self-storage industry with in-depth news and information. We also publish a variety of other self-storage data sources, such as those that you see listed on your screen. For more information about any of them, please feel free to visit us at ministoragemessenger.com. We'd like to invite you to submit questions throughout the webinar today. To do so, simply type your question in the question area and click send. We will try to answer as many as we can during the webinar or during the Q&A period at the end of the webinar. However, any questions that aren't answered due to time constraints will be answered by Tron and his team after the webinar has concluded by email. The webinar is being recorded. It will be available for viewing on demand from our archives at ministoragemessenger.com, and the presentation itself should run about 45 minutes with the remainder of the hour open to questions and answers. Now it's my distinct pleasure to turn the presentation over to one of my favorite people in the industry and his great team. Good morning, Tron.
Good morning, Poppy. Thanks for organizing this for us. We sure appreciate your time and your effort in making this happen and all the great things that Mini Storage Messenger does to provide education and contacts for the industry. Thanks very much. It's my pleasure to sit down today around the big table with the sales coaches from PhoneSmart. And we're going to talk today about sales practices that you need to master before the busy season starts kicking in here anytime. So depending on where you are, you may already be seeing some phone volume increase, but by March 15th or April 15th, you're going to see lots of traffic. I know call volume has been busy in the call center this winter. We had probably 4 slow days in January instead of the usual 4 slow weeks that we usually have in January. So there is activity out there, and the question is then, are these people going to rent with you or are they going to rent with somebody else? So we've got basically 4 topics that we're going to talk about today. One is organizing your sales efforts, because if you're disorganized, that's never good. We're going to talk about talking the talk, because if you are not actually implementing some of these practices, you're going to miss out on rentals. Then we're going to talk about getting the whole organization on board, because if you're getting resistance from any place in the organization, it's going to be tough to pull this off through the busy season. And then we're going to have the sales coaches talk about mastering specific sales practices that work for them and their teams every day. So let's first talk a little bit about organizing your efforts. So you've got basically 5 things that have to happen here. Somebody's got to train your people. Somebody's got to coach them. So while they're actually doing what you train them to do, someone can be there to help them do it as well as they can. Someone's got to monitor what they're doing to be able to tell you if they're doing better, doing worse. Someone's got to evaluate what they're doing to be able to see where there's good things to praise or difficulties that need to be fixed. And then someone's got to motivate the team and discipline the team if they need some discipline. So who's going to do that in your organization? It's tough to have one person doing all of that, but in a small organization, there probably will be one person doing all of these functions. So this also gives you an idea as to how we organize our sales efforts as a sales team, as a selling company. We're doing all 5 of these things all day long. So let's talk a little bit about talking the talk. Selling is all about using the correct language. And what you'll hear from a lot of our sales coaches today is specific language that they use, how they interpret the language that callers are using, and then how you can perhaps use some of this language yourself. So I encourage you to figure out the language of selling and use that both in talking to your staff people, your fellow coworkers, and learn to use the language of selling when you're talking to potential customers. And then you got to go out and practice it. The only way you learn it is to sell, is to try on every contact, try on every phone call to make the sale. And you're going to stumble some, you're going to succeed some, but you'll get better and better at it as you go. So once you're talking the talk, you're going to have to get the whole organization on board. And certainly you've got to get support from the very top, because you'll need resources, you'll need time, you'll need materials, you'll need their support to make it happen. So the first person you have to learn to sell to is your boss. And if you can't sell your boss on getting better at selling, then it's going to be difficult. Now, everybody at the store level has to buy in as well. And if they understand that becoming a better sales organization helps them rent more units, helps them have happier customers, helps them have a more pleasant work day and a bigger paycheck, then they're going to buy in. So it's really all in how you present it. Now, you're going to have some doubters in the organization, and you're going to have to either overcome that or ignore them. And if it's a doubter in a position of power, it's going to be tough to just ignore them. So try to get your doubters to convert to the sales culture. And how they convert to the sales culture is by seeing results. When they see increased rentals, increased closing percentages on leads and reservations, when they see longer lengths of stay, they get it and they buy in. So you've got to bring this concept to everyone in the company, and not everyone's going to have the same reasons for liking the idea. So you're going to have to help figure that out. All of this sounds a lot like selling, doesn't it? So let's talk about mastering specific sales practices. And here's where we're going to introduce you to some of our sales coaches, and they're going to speak about some of the practices that work well for them. And I'd encourage you to take lots of notes here and use these practices as you can. You're going to hear a lot of things here today. You won't be able to use all of them. But if you only walk away from this webinar with one or two good practices, you will see some great results. So I'm first going to introduce you to our sales manager, Robin Turner, and she's going to give you a gem you can take home. Robin?
One of my favorite techniques is the price stall. Basically, this is just where you simply redirect the caller when they originally call, because a lot of times they'll call and say, I need a price on a 10 by 10. And so the important thing is to redirect them, because you don't want to just give out a price of a storage unit. That's not going to help them a whole lot. They can go down and get the cheapest price, but price is not always the best thing. So one of my favorites to redirecting the caller is simply asking something like, let me ask you a couple of questions so I can give you the best price that I can. That helps me open up the conversation to the caller, gets them interested. They want to know what I'm getting ready to ask, number one, and what I can actually help them with as far as educating them on more information as to why maybe a storage unit has the price that it has. Another example could be something like, sure, just a moment, I can certainly get that for you. By the way, let me ask you this. Anything that redirects the caller before just simply giving out a price. This could be anything from, how soon do you might need it, or what are you storing, anything that gives you more information to make sure that you're giving the right size that you're quoting on. And that's one of my favorite price stalls.
Great. Thank you, Robin. Next, we'll hear from Julie Baca, and she's our trainer. And I think you've got a couple interesting things you can choose from, too.
And I'm actually standing up because my whole thing is standing up when you answer that phone or somebody walks into your facility. It's going to do multiple things for your youth. The first thing it's going to do is going to get you to stop working on that email that you were typing. It's going to stop what you're doing. It's going to make you focus on your customer that you've got now in front of you or over the phone. It will also make you sound much more awake. If you're slouching in your chair, you don't sound awake. Think about an opera singer. Opera singers stand up for a reason. It opens up your diaphragm. You sound better. You sound more energized and more awake. and we're ready to actually help somebody. And the third benefit of standing up is that it's going to make you sound confident. You hold your head up, you hold your shoulders back, you sound confident, and the people who call us want to know that we know what we're talking about in storage. They want to make sure that you're the expert and you're able to help them, and standing up will give you the confidence to pull that off over the phone when they can't see you.
Thanks, Julie. So when your boss says stand up and deliver, they mean it for real. Thank you. Next, we'll pass it over to Evan Griffith, and he's one of our supervisors and sales coaches. What do you have for us, Evan?
I want to talk for a minute about tie downs. And basically what tie downs are short, simple questions you want to use throughout the call to get agreements from your callers. So the idea is that you're building these agreements to build towards the sale. Usually there's, like I said, short, simple questions. Usually, like after you sell the features, you might want to ask, are those the type of features that you're looking for? Does that work for you? Or that's a great feature, right? This way you can get agreements from the caller throughout the call to build to your sale at the end. And if you run into an objection at the end, you've got a list of agreements that you build up. You can go back and find out why it doesn't work for the caller and ultimately address that concern to end the sale.
Great. Thanks, Evan. Let's hear next from Michael Lorimer, and he's one of our coaches also.
I'm going to go ahead and discuss what is the real reason the customer is saying no to the sale. And when we ask for the sale, a lot of times the customer is going to turn you down, but not really give you a reason why. And when the customer says no to the sale, that doesn't really mean it's the end of the call. We need to kind of figure out what is the customer truly saying no to what we've offered. The way I like to figure it out is by probing questions. For example, I'll use, were you looking for something that we don't have, or was that what you were looking for? Just to get them to express the real reason why they said no. Maybe they're just looking for something that we have but we just haven't covered, or maybe there's another space a little cheaper that'll work better for their budget.
Thank you. And that kind of talks to one of our basic principles, which is when someone says no to us, they don't really say no. They're just saying, well, you haven't told me enough yet. So thank you, Michael. Next, we'll hear from Nikita Womack, and she's one of our coaches as well. What would you like to share with them, Nikita?
Yes, basically one important thing that I use on the phone and while coaching is sell it to the customer how you would want it to be sold to you. So if you don't want to have the whole salesman salesmanship, make sure that you do it the way that someone has to do it to you. So no surprises. Make sure you tell the person what they need to know up front. It's very important. When you build, this is actually building rapport. Once you sell it to them the way that you would like it, then that means it's a lot easier for you to go for the reservation or the booking. When you tell that customer, hey, this is the best thing I can do for you. Let's go ahead and do it, but that's one less thing you have to worry about. So if you do it more in a conversational type way, it'll be a lot easier for you to go for that reservation and feel confident.
Well, and I've seen some of the people you coach with, after you talk to them about why don't you just sell it how you like to be sold to? You sort of see a little light bulb go off, and they go, oh, okay, and they become so much more natural about it, and their conversion rates go right up immediately. So thank you. That's a great one to share. Next, we'll hear from Clarence Jones, and he does a lot of our call quality auditing as well. Clarence, what do you have for us?
I like to call them the Me Too phrases. It's the feel, felt, found. And it just basically puts you on the same level as the customer. Usually when the customer walks into the store, they're looking at you as a salesperson already. The feel, felt, found actually, again, puts you on that same level with the customer. I feel the same way. Or even when you're in a general conversation with somebody, you'll say, me too. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what it's doing. It's just putting you on the same level with the customer. Others have felt this way. I feel the same way. I've had to, or I have felt the same way.
Good, thank you. Well, certainly any of you who practice empathy with your callers, whether you do that by design or just by nature, you find that certainly helps a lot. Thanks, Clarence. Next, we're going to hear from Liz Langsteiner, and she's PhoneSmart's key account rep, and she's got some great stuff for us too. Liz?
Thank you. What I want to talk about is during the call, focus on your caller, and remember, it's not about you. It's about that caller. And then there's the I factor. There's one exception, and that's the one you just heard from Clarence. But during the call, remove that I factor. Oh, I remember when I was this, don't do that. When they start telling you about their new boat, they don't want to hear about your new boat. Focus on your caller. Remember, it's all about them. When you do that, you're going to build rapport. You will build trust. And you're going to build confidence. And you're going to close the sale.
Thanks, Liz. And I know that that works for us in our day-to-day practice, that it's never about us. It's about the customer and about the client. And people hear that loud and clear when you practice that. Thank you, Liz. So next we're going to hear from Tim Shipman. He's also one of our coaches. What do you have for us, Tim?
Okay, I'm going to talk about the proper demeanor on the phone that I like to use that's been effective for me. A little background, my first sales job was in direct sales, and the way I became successful there was to have so much energy and enthusiasm. You would have thought I was selling magic blenders or exercise equipment on late night television. I was very excited. My energy level was off the charts, and I had a lot of success with this approach in that industry. When I started with storage, I used the same approach because it's the only kind of sales that I'd ever known. It worked okay, but I really didn't start competing with the top sales reps at PhoneSmart until I developed a new method. Instead of being highly energetic and enthusiastic, I now focus on being calm, positive, and confident. Calm because a lot of storage customers are going through life-changing events, and they need to hear a calm, reassuring voice as opposed to someone bouncing off the walls. Positive tone because storage callers may be dealing with a lot of negativity, and it will be refreshing to have some positivity in their day. Also, people in general have a hard time saying no to someone who is positive and pleasant with them. So whether you're asking for a name, number, site visit, reservation, callers will tend to say yes more often if you have a nice, pleasant tone. Confidence is important because we all want to buy stuff from someone who sounds like they know what they're talking about. So that would just kind of, and this is the other stuff we discuss here, but, you know, assumptive phrases throughout the call like, would today or tomorrow work better for you? Let's go ahead and hold the space so it's here when you come in. I feel that being calm, positive, and confident has helped me book a lot more storage units, and I think it would work for most storage sales reps.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. We see that working for people every day. So. Next, we're going to talk to Joel Little, and he's our head sales coach. Joel, what did you want to share with us?
I want to talk about assuming that everyone you talk to is a renter. Okay, so the biggest thing is, you know, a lot of people talk about having confidence. So when somebody walks into your store, they call you on the telephone, or you do a follow-up call, you need to assume that they are going to rent from you and not anyone else. So how do you do that? A lot of people have already shared a couple of things, being confident, really understanding what you have and what you have can benefit their life. Asking plenty of questions, because a lot of questions that you ask, their responses to it can really help you tie in the benefits of your facility to their lifestyle and what their needs are. So also realizing your competition is not as great as you are. You have what the customer needs, what the customer wants, and what the customer desires. So having the confidence that your facility and what you have outweighs what the competition has, and also that customer should rent from you and no one else will definitely get you on top of the industry. Realizing also that if you come in not being confident, not having your head up, the customer is going to see that and pick up on those things and maybe not want to rent from you. So then lastly, ask for the sale. Everything might sound great. You put up a great presentation to the customer, and they get just in the call or in the presentation with, okay, well, thanks a lot. But you need to ask for that sale. I think that's a lost art that a lot of people do miss. Ask the customer or recommend they go ahead and rent. Go ahead and let's show your unit. Let's go ahead and rent this space. Ask for the sale and assume that everybody you talk to is a renter.
Well, and I think that's a great point, and that's one of the things that we work on early with our sales reps is to assume that everybody who calls is going to rent the storage unit. We don't talk to shoppers. We don't talk to tire kickers. Everybody who calls is going to rent from somebody. And the question is, are they going to rent from us or from someone else? And taking that approach gives everybody a lot of confidence when they're talking on the phone. So that's a great point. Thank you. Poppy, I'd like to open it up now. If we have any questions you'd like to throw in, this would be a good spot to do that.
Let me look and see. I think that everybody has been so engrossed in what you guys are saying. I don't have any questions right now.
Well, awesome. Well, let's throw some more at them then. I'd like to go around the table one more time because we have lots of best practices that we put into play all the time. So, Robin, why don't you share something else with us?
Absolutely. Another one of my ultimate favorites is an alternate choice question, because for me, that helps me close my sale. That helps me close the deal with the customer on the phone. Half the time when callers call in, they've never rented storage before, so they have no idea what the best thing is for them when renting storage, how the rental process works. When you start talking about sizes, they a lot of times don't have a good visual as to what would work. And if you just say, do you want a 10 by 10, a lot of times you're going to say, I don't know. You're going to hear, I don't know, I need to come in and take a look. So for me to narrow it down with my callers on the phone and really pinpoint and get the caller to focus too is offering choices. Something like, this is what you don't want to do. When can you come in? Many, many times I always hear, previously of course, I'm not sure yet. That doesn't help me and it doesn't help the caller. So offering an alternate choice question, something more like, would today or tomorrow work better for you to come in and have a site tour? A lot of times you'll get, I think that tomorrow would probably work better. Okay, great. Now you can go on to the next step. Would you prefer to come in tomorrow morning or afternoon? Again, the more choices that you give them, it helps them focus in on just a couple options rather than the whole rental process, the moving, the packing, the rental cost. Alternate choices makes it really simple for callers, and it also helps educate them too, because they ask questions sometimes when you have an alternate choice, such as, for instance, would you prefer climate controlled or standard? Well, what is climate controlled? There's your opportunity right there to explain what the differences in the unit types and maybe more about what they're putting into their storage unit. So alternate choices can really open up the conversation with callers.
Great, thank you. And that's again one of the basic things that we teach people when they come into training is to use the alternate choice question. And man, it works great. Julie, share something else with us, please.
One of the things we know is that we don't only have to worry about new customers coming in, we have to keep our current customers happy. And this technique is a thank you for your problem technique. This is for the caller that is calling in or walking in and they have an issue. There's something going wrong, they're not happy with you for whatever reason. The first thing you want to do to get rid of that antagonism between you and that customer is say, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. Simply telling them thank you for bringing it to my attention will stop them in their tracks and go, oh, this person's going to listen to me. They're going to take it down. They're going to help me. Rather than saying, well, our practice is, or whatever you've been saying in the past, stop saying that. Or don't say, I'm sorry to hear that. People don't want to hear you're sorry. They want to hear that you're going to do something about it. So thank them for bringing it to your attention, and then have procedures in place to either tell them what you're going to do about it to fix it, or who you're going to send it to in your chain of command so that their concerns can be addressed.
Well, that's a great point. And we talk to a lot of our clients' current customers, and boy, the conversation sure changes when they know you're going to listen and help them. And certainly from a sales perspective, it's a lot easier to fill up your store if no one moves out than if people are moving out. So that's for sure. Thank you, Julie. Evan, why don't you give us something else to work on?
Yeah, certainly. The second thing that I want to talk about is matching the pace of the caller, or speed of speech, I guess would be another name for it as well. And this is usually something that I use once our reps have been on the phone for a while. You want them to kind of get down to basics, start addressing objections, you know, that do well in their closing and asking for the sale. But this can be a little trick once you kind of got down to basics of where to go with the call. It's all about making your caller comfortable. So if you get somebody, let's use New York for an example, where they want to move fast, they want to talk, you know, they want to move through the call and get off the phone, try and keep up with them. Or let them talk and then get in when you can. On the flip side, if you get the sweet little old lady in Arizona that has never done storage before, and she's just kind of taking things in, at a slower pace, slow down a little bit. Stay with her, ask questions, make sure that she's got you've got her attention, and that she's actually learning throughout the process. But it's all about matching what your caller wants to do, because when the caller is comfortable with you, they're more likely to rent from you and buy what you're selling.
Well, and that's a great point, and I know all of you serve people who come from all kinds of backgrounds in all parts of the country. And we serve clients from Canada, the United States, Mexico, and Panama, and everybody comes from a different corner of the continent, and they have their own way of speaking and their own style, and it certainly sets people at ease when you're with them. So that's a great point. Michael, what do you have next?
Yeah, I want to discuss the power of the word yes. And getting yeses from the customer throughout the sales call is very important. Yes is a positive word. By getting the yeses from your caller, you're not only getting agreements that this will work for them, but it also helps the caller become more involved in the call itself. Also, if the caller says no to the sale, you can go back to the previous yeses and explain how it sounds like it's going to be the thing that exactly works for them and meets their needs. It gives the caller a reason to rent and not feel more pressured into renting. And if you're getting yeses through the sales call, then it's going to be harder for them to say no at the end.
Well, that's a great point, and that's where some of the good probing questions, the alternate choice questions, and things like that come into play. If someone said yes to you 6 or 7 times in a call already, it becomes a little more awkward for them to say no, I think. So it's a good point. Thank you. Nikita, what do you have next?
Transitions are really important in a call. You want to basically get from A to B. The important thing is using information that you've got from the customer in the beginning of the call, gathering information. So if you ask the customer how soon you need the storage, what you'll be storing, use those items to get you to the closing part of the call, which is actually getting the reservation or getting the booking. So basically interpreting what your customer is trying to tell you and use it for a close. So those are some important things that you want to do with work on transitions, which are some things you can say is, great, well, since you need it 2 days from now, the best thing I could do for you is go ahead and reserve it, and then you use what that customer had already told you previously, use a good transitional phrase to get you to where you want to be at, which is a reservation, and make it clear to your customer.
Well, that's great, because we know from trying to ask questions and listen to people, they often go off in directions that don't make the call any quicker, and being able to have some good transition phrases to help you bring the call back on track, so to speak, are really helpful. So think about how you transition the parts of the call or the parts of your sales process, and I think you'll find some more good things to work on there. Clarence, what else do you have in your toolbox you want to share with us today?
One of my favorites is just creating urgency for the customer. So many times we just accept what the customer says. Well, that's okay. I got to check at a couple other places, or say something to just get off the phone instead of us creating urgency. Well, I've only got 2 more of those spaces left. Not even if you've got 50. I've only got a few spaces left. I've had a few calls on today, a few appointments this afternoon. Are you sure you didn't want to go ahead and put that on hold today? Just creating that urgency, let the customer know that you are down to your last few. And again, refer back to what Joel said, we do have what they desire. So I think creating urgency is one of the most important practices of all.
Well, and I'm betting every one of you who works at the store has had somebody roll up to your gate at 5 minutes to close in a moving truck, all sweaty and mad, and that's the day you've got a baseball game you've got to get to, and now there's a bad situation where had that person reserved their unit when they called a week ago, they wouldn't be in this position. So, creating urgency is not just about trying to squeeze the person to make a decision. That's really not what it's about. What it's about is saving them from putting themselves in a bad position later. Because you've all had people call you who say, I need a storage unit, I need it today. We get those calls on Sundays when a lot of our customers are closed. And it's sad because a lot of those people who need it that Sunday have no place to go. Now, had they reserved it on Monday when they called the first time, they'd already be in their unit and everything would be okay. So, save your customers some trouble and create a little urgency for them. That works great. Thanks, Clarence. Yes.
Tron, I have a few questions, so I'm going to jump in and throw these out here to you guys now. The first one is, how do you ask for the customer's name?
Okay, well, great. I think there's a couple different schools of thought on that. Joel, what do you think?
The funny thing is, I was actually going to talk about that one, so that's really awesome. When at the beginning of the call, of course, you just get to introduce yourself, but how do you do that? So we, of course, answer the phone with our names. They can call and this is Joel, can I help you? And then we usually let the customer say whatever their concern is. I usually like to go ahead and break up the call right there and say, oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm so rude. My name's Joel, what's your name? And then that right there creates that personal relationship, and you start that rapport building and become a friend with the customer. So please don't wait until the end of the call when you're trying to get the lead or you're just trying to get their name and number to follow up. It's okay to ask for the name up front. Actually, I think most customers nowadays kind of expect it. I think that's a lost art to just introduce like you would if they were in person. Of course, you can't do the handshake over the phone, but if they walk in your store, a handshake is always great. Hey, my name is Joel, what's your name? Let's just keep it simple. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. And what's in the name, use the name throughout the phone call or throughout the conversation. When you get to the end, use the name to reserve. You know what, Tim, I think the best thing for us to do is go ahead and reserve the space. It's a lot harder for a customer to say no or to walk out on you or to do whatever if you know their name and you build that personal relationship.
And if you do have their first name, it's very easy to start filling out your lease or filling out your lead form or whatever you need to do, because you can say, well, okay, Tim, I just need a little more information from you. What's your last name? And then start filling things out. And that works out really well, too. So hopefully that's a pretty good answer to that question.
All right, next question. Regarding quoting bulk storage units, what is the most effective way to quote a bulk customer? For example, a company looking to rent multiple units and obtaining price quotes among the competitors. For example, 600 square feet.
Oh, so if someone's looking for something by large square footage as opposed to maybe just some small household things?
Right.
Well, I think everybody in their stores has an idea as to how they can mix and match units together. Some of you may have properties where you can take down a wall between, two 10x30s and create a 600-foot unit for somebody. Others of you may not. So generally, what we like to do with customers that have a bit of a unique question is to let them do the talking, ask some questions, find out as much as you can about what they need, and then let them know, sure, I can help you with that, and then get them in and figure out how to help them with it. So if you get some curious requests that you're not quite sure what to do with, figure it out while they're talking. You usually have a way to do that. Now, if they want a price by the square foot, we generally don't price things by the square foot. But if you can get them in to take a look at the property and assure them that you're going to meet their needs, because they need more than just the space. So do they need a way to do UPS drop-offs? Well, you can help them with that. Do they need a pallet jack to move things around? Maybe you have one they can use. So there's a lot of other things they're looking for besides just the space. So that's kind of a roundabout way, but I hope that answers the question.
Okay, the next question, I think somebody might have misunderstood what was said because they're questioning, should we lie to potential customers about the availability of space?
Well, no, you should never lie about it. But if you're in a busy property, if you have 50 empty units, not all 50 of those are ready to rent today. You only have a handful of them swept and ready to go. And you've all been in a situation where you've had somebody come in a day, and you've had a busy day where someone came in and rented, 6 or 8 or 10 units from you in a day. You can rent out quickly sometimes. So no, you should never lie to people. But the fact is that as busy season gets busier, it is difficult sometimes to get the unit you want. And the best way to help those people is to get their reservation for them now. You can't always create urgency by telling someone, look, finding storage is a real pain in the rear. You're going to hate it. You're going to call 10 people. you know, 8 of them are going to be rude. You're going to go look at 3 places, and 2 of them are going to be dirty, and you're going to end up back here anyway. It's hard to really have that conversation with people. So you can't exactly phrase it to them that way. But when you let them know that we're getting into busy season and availability is limited, and if they're going to be renting a truck that day, they don't want to be, you know, rolling in here at 5 minutes to close and not having a unit available. So, okay, there's a fine line there if you want, but, you know, the best thing you can do to help these people is get them in a unit. So find a way to create urgency that you're comfortable with, and that works great.
Okay, another question. How do you ask for a callback number without making it obvious that you're going to have someone follow up with them?
So I'd have a follow-up question on that. Why would you not want that person to know you're going to follow up with them? Because if you're trying to provide that person with good customer service and a good sales experience, and for whatever reason they're not quite ready to make the purchase now, why wouldn't you want to continue the relationship with them and say, okay, well, if I don't have something for you today, or if you're not ready today, let me help you with this process. And if you're going to know more on Friday, I'd be glad to get back with you on Friday and help you figure this out. So I would say that that's how I'd answer the question, is by asking that question back again.
And we've had that question asked a couple of ways too, Tron. Another one has said many times, despite our best efforts, the callers are reluctant to give us their number. How do we go about getting it?
Well, I would say you've got a couple ways to look at that, and I'll let Robin answer that, because Robin is probably one of the people who has the fewest what we call no leads, where someone doesn't give us information. What do you think, Robin?
The way that I do it with getting a name and phone number, and like you said, a lot of people are hesitant. They don't want to get a call back. They don't want to be you know, bombarded with storage calls from a storage facility that they're not sure they're going to rent with. So one of my favorite ways is making it very easy for the caller, so to speak, saying something like, if they have a question, for example, and I can't answer it at that very moment, I might say, well, let me get your name and number. I'm going to check on this. I'll see what I can come up with for you. If it's somebody who doesn't need the storage unit, you know, not up today or tomorrow type of thing, but maybe next week, it's typically usually longer than that, let me get a name and number, and that way, you know, we can keep in touch. I can let you know about availabilities and specials that come up. That way you have a heads up on it, because it's always best to know in advance. Another way that I do it is, let me get a name and number. Let me get your name and phone number while I've got you on the phone, so I can take a couple notes while I've got you on here. Or so I can just jot down the special in case it works for you. Then, you know, we'll already know what we talked about. Those are kind of my tried and true ways of getting contact information from callers, and they seem to be pretty comfortable with that.
Who else has a favorite way they want to share? Michael?
I usually, before I get the contact information, I just say, you know, well, let me see what I can do for you. And then that makes them feel the sense that, you know, I am helping them out. I am going to work something out for them, you know, one way or the other. I'm not promising them, you know, hey, I'm going to offer you a special or anything like that. I'm just saying, hey, let me see what I can do for you. What's your first name? And then it looks like, you know, I am really trying to help them out and, you know, get something set up for them.
Joel? I'll have Joel jump in with one more, and then we'll get to the next question, okay?
Okay.
I know in my personal experience, I really don't like to repeat a lot of the information that I've already said. So one thing I like to tell the customers is, you know what, when you come down, just so we don't have to repeat the same information and go through the whole process again, let me just get your name and number. I can reference that, and we can go back to the notes that we already talked about. So when you come down, it'd be really easy for us to recap and show you the unit, and we can pretty much go from there. A lot of people just don't want to keep repeating the same information potentially to a different person. So if all the notes are there, everything is right in front of you, customers will be a little more apt to be agreeable if they don't have to repeat themselves over and over again.
Thanks. Hopefully that helps, Poppy.
Okay, next question. Can you give us some suggestions on how to close the sale when a caller is only interested in the cheapest price out there? And that kind of ties into the next question, which is my biggest objection with sale calls is I'm still calling around. You're the first place I called. How would you roll a customer back in knowing that your competition is $40 to $60 cheaper than your prices?
Okay, great, great. Evan, why don't you take a swing at that?
Yeah, well, one of my favorite things to use when people are talking about the cheapest price, I always refer to the phrase, unfortunately, the cheapest price is never the best quality. And if people are storing their belongings, don't you want to keep those items safe? Don't you want them to be there when you come back and are ready to take them out of the storage unit? So I always try to encourage customers to find a good balance. And usually if you're doing a great job selling the features that you have, selling the amenities that your facility offers, you can usually get around not being the cheapest price that's out there. But basically just reassure customers that if you go for the cheapest price, you're never going to find the best quality, and it's very likely that you may run into some sort of an issue with your stuff at some point.
Who else would want to take a swing at that?
More
Nikita?
so, yes, you can use the comparison, compare apples to apples. When I first started here, one of the supervisors said, well, when you run up against something like that, make sure you say, well, compare apples to apples. So if you go to this facility and they don't have a gate, they don't have security features, but there's $20 less, like everyone was saying, you have to kind of think in advance what's going to happen to your item. If it's not important enough for you to keep your items in a secure place, what's the reason of storing? So just like everyone was saying, just reiterate that to your customer and just say, hey, the best thing I can do for you, let's go ahead and rent it now for you or reserve it now. So that's one less thing you have to worry about. So when you do go look there and you know it's not going to work for you, you already have us waiting here for you.
And we deal with these issues all day long, and it's one of the things that Julie trains on with new reps. Why don't you share some of that with us, Julie?
One of the things that I think really works well for callers that have price questions is to immediately invite them in. Acknowledge to them, yes, this is a big monthly commitment in your budget. We recognize that. But you really do need to come in and see what your money is buying you. Can I set you up for an appointment today or tomorrow to take a look? And you're going right back to your alternate choice question that Robin talked about. You get them set up to come in today or tomorrow. Since you're setting an appointment, you're going to ask their first name, their last name, and their phone number at the same time. As soon as they have that price concern, of course, everybody has a price concern. I would worry about that expense as well. However, you really do need to come in and see what your money is buying you. Can you come in today or tomorrow?
Well, and this also goes back to Tim's demeanor that he was talking about, because when you're calm and confident in responding to their price question, it puts them at ease. Most of the people calling around, I think, assume that the people they talk to are frontline workers and not the owners of the place. And I think what they want to hear is your reaction to the price. So many times when they go, oh, that's too much money, or oh, I can get it cheaper, they want to hear what your reaction is. And if you go, you kind of get what you pay for, all right, then they go, aha, I knew it. You think it's too much too. And then they hang up and call the next place. But when you're calm and confident about dealing with the price issue and do some of the things that you just heard, then the people either say to themselves something like, well, I guess it's worth it then. If they, seems like this works for them, I guess it's worth it. Or at the very least, they'll know that you have a quality product, and if they purposefully choose to take the cheapest they can get, then at least they've made that decision. We're having pizza for lunch here after we're done with the webinar, and I could have got the $5 Little Caesars pizza. Hey, and everyone would have been happy with that because they wouldn't have to buy lunch, right? But I didn't do that. I got the $15 local, good pizza or whatever you call it. Because what the heck, we're worth it, right? So I don't know whether that story helps you at all. But price is tough, and you have to not glitch. So thank you. That was a good question.
Okay, this next question pretty much was real similar to that, so I'll just let you guys go on. And
okay. Well, great. Who are we going to talk to next? I think, Liz, you had something else you wanted to share with us, didn't you?
Yes, I do. I am the key account rep. I also develop new business for PhoneSmart. So I am always helping operators come to PhoneSmart so that we can help them rent more units. But in talking with them, it is still a sales call. So a couple things that I do, I keep on my phone on the yellow sticky note, and one of them was what I talked about earlier. It's not about you. And that's for me. I have to remember that this isn't about me, it's about that operator and meeting their needs. The other thing that I really work on is not interrupting the person on the phone, letting them finish their train of thought and not cutting them off, because that's rude, and you want to let them talk. So the other thing I have next to my phone is a little note that says, be quick to listen and slow to speak, while controlling the call. So that's my tip for the day.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Tim, what else would you like to throw on the table?
Okay. Well, a little background. I feel one of the main reasons I've been successful in a few different fields of sales is I tend to get customers to say yes a lot the first time I ask for the sale. One of my weaknesses has always been overcoming objections. So once they say no, whereas some people may be able to kind of go back and forth with the customer and figure it out, when I tend to try to come back with a rebuttal, often it leads to something that feels more like a debate or an argument. So it's not really helpful. For me personally, I found more success with this approach. So this would be an example on a call. Well, let's go ahead and hold the space so it's here when you come in. Which card works best for you? Well, I think I'm just going to hold off. Me? Well, that's fine. No worries. You definitely don't have to reserve a space to come in and rent with us. Let me tell you a few more details. I'll then go over some other things I haven't yet covered, such as admin fees, insurance. If I've covered those, then I go to office hours, access hours, just something that's helpful and informative and allows them to put their guard down and to be comfortable. Once I've done that, then I come back with a strong reservation attempt again. For example, I really would feel bad if the spaces were sold out on Friday. It's been really busy this week and they're almost gone. Plus it locks in the price and special and it's easy to hold. Which card would you like to use to reserve? And I tend to have more success with that personally than just trying it right away.
Well, and I think that's a great point. Not everyone is really good at having a good response at hand, but especially when you're being calm and confident on the phone with people, if you don't get excited the first time they say no to you, then you're in good shape, right? Because they're used to, in a lot of sales situations, when they say no, they're used to the salesperson getting their feathers in a ruffle. And if they don't ruffle you all up when they say no, it's really a non-event in the call. And I've heard some of those calls that you do, Tim, and the people just stay relaxed, and the second time you ask, they usually go, all right, sure, I'll use my MasterCard. So, just being, calm takes you a long ways, for sure. Joe, you probably have one or two more things you'd like to share.
We always hear that, laugh is the best medicine. So why not share a chuckle with the customer? I think that sharing a chuckle with the customer, I really try every call somehow to get them to laugh. And sometimes the customer ends up laughing at themselves for the situations that they're in. So it's a good icebreaker. It definitely relieves the stress of the call. It starts the customer to realize that they know that you're a salesperson, but with that chuckle, it kind of opens up to a relaxing rapport-building session, and then you make a friend in the end. And then if you make that friend, well, you're just trying to help the friend get a storage space, so it ends up being a smooth transition. So try to share a chuckle with the customer, a good laugh always clears the air and makes everybody comfortable. And then you'll find that you will rent more units because the customer now trusts you.
Well, and I think you also kind of bring up a really good point, which is a lot of people would really prefer to do business with people they like rather than just getting the best deal. And if they like talking to you on the phone and they find you're pleasant or you're fun or you're helpful or you're interesting or whatever it is, you're being yourself, they like that. It also tells them something about the place they're looking to do business with. In the back of their head, they're saying, you know what, if this place hires folks like that, it's probably okay to do business with them. I mean, don't you do this too yourself? You're talking to yourself while you're in the sales process, trying to figure things out, and you're either talking yourself into the sale or talking yourself out of the sale. And if you walk into a store and you find the person helping you is helpful and nice and a little bit fun and pleasant and laid back, you're thinking, well, why don't I do business with them? This would be a good experience. And so even though we're telling you about a lot of sales practices and a lot of techniques and things you can use, it really comes down to being yourself and being open with the people. And boy, if you can share a chuckle with them, that goes a long way to making the sale work well. Do you have any other questions for us, Bobby? Did we lose you, Bobby?
No, I'm here. I just had I put it on mute so that you didn't hear me working away while I was listening to all of your great suggestions. Here's one. We have 20 local storage facilities located within a 5-mile radius. What are the best practices to keep up with the competitor?
One of the things that you can do, which not a lot of people are very good at implementing, is to do what we call a sister store program. So that's where all the stores know each other's stores' best features, best deals, and things like that. So if I'm at store A and Robin is running store B, if someone calls me for something that I may not have that's exactly right for them and Robin has it, I can get the deal for Robin's store while they're on the phone with me. We've had a lot of good success with that, where we've had perhaps the call volume has been going to one store, but there's a store down the street that has vacancy and needs the help. We've been able to direct a lot of business that way. That works really well. And if you've got 20 stores in an area that can work pretty much as one unit, it'll be very hard for your competitors to keep up with that. So I think by instituting a really good sister store program or a inter-store referral program or whatever you want to call it, that would give you a lot of power. So hopefully that helps.
Great suggestion. I have not a question, but somebody that wanted to offer you one of their tips. This attendee said, treat your customers like gold. Treat them like they are the most important person in the world because they are not going to get great customer service elsewhere, I believe, from most places.
Well, and that's true, and we hear that sort of thing a lot, where we get to an end of a phone call and someone says, well, you know what, I could go somewhere else, but I'm going to rent with you because you took the time to listen to me. And everyone around the table, they're shaking their head now because they've all had that phone call where someone has said something like that. You know, people don't always get treated very well at a lot of businesses, and if you treat them pretty well and certainly act helpful, they're going to say, you know what, I don't care if you cost $5 or $10 more. I'm getting my value just because you value me. So that's a great point that person brought up. Yes, Joe.
You know, in addition to that, you know, Tron made a good point that what the competition does not have is you. So if you are a rock star and taking care of the customer, making them feel welcome, making them feel great, following up with their questions or the issues that they come up with, that's definitely going to definitely stay in the customer's head that you know, that person at that store will take care of me. I never met anybody else like that. So hiring a great staff and a great team of people that can pull people in with their personalities and their get them attitude can definitely win people over versus competition.
Well, and that's absolutely true. Many, many years ago, when people used to use checks to pay their storage rent, like 3 or 5 or 8 years ago, we did a little study just for fun. We asked a lot of store managers if they ever ran into the situation where someone came into the store to write a check for their rent and didn't know who to write the check out to. They had to look around to see the name of the company, but knew the store manager by the first name. And people would say, you know what, that happens to me all the time. I know all my customers by the first name, and what you're saying is right. It's the weirdest thing. They come in to pay their rent, they take out their checkbook, and they have to ask me who to write it out to, or they look around for the name of the business. It's because those people were storing with the person, not with the company. So Joel's right that, you know, the competition doesn't have you. That's for sure. So, do we have any questions? Any other questions we should field for any of the attendees?
not. Well, let's see. I think I just had one come in. Yes, I did. Hold on. What if you're on the phone and the customer interrupts you several times because, let's see, because all they want is a rate?
Okay. Well, great. I think that's a good question because we will have that happen sometimes where someone will say, just give me the price, just give me the price. Who wants to share some ideas on that? Nikita?
Basically, you definitely want to assure the customer that, sure, I'm going to definitely answer that question for you. I just want to make sure that we get you the right price size that you're looking for. So just give me one moment while that loads just to make sure I have this right and just to make sure, and then qualify the size that customer is going to need. That's one thing that we do here is qualify the size. So if a customer says, hey, I need a 10 by 10, okay, just want to make sure it's going to work for you while the price loads, and then qualify that they're actually storing those items in that size. So just make sure you buy yourself a couple moments before you give them a price while they're interrupted.
And then also something else that Robin mentioned earlier is just redirecting the customer, getting them away from the price, asking follow-up questions or transition phrases, as Nikita mentioned earlier, and again, just buying yourself some more time.
Well, and there are times you have to bark the price up, but when you do, you got to have a good transition ready so that you can say it's only $99. Did you want to come in today or tomorrow? It's only $99. And here's what you get for $99. Only $99, which is a good rate for the area because we have this feature and that feature. So sometimes people want to duel with you a little bit, and if they're doing it because they want to have a little sport and have some fun, then you're back to what Evan was talking about, where you want to match the caller's style a little bit. But Julie, you usually have a couple good things to offer on that in training. What do you think?
One of the good things to say is there's a lot that goes into price. You know, there's a lot that goes into price. Let me just ask you a few more questions so we can get you what you need and make it all about them and their needs. Another good thing to do when they're talking about price is, my general rule is if they ask you 3 times, give them the price. Don't alienate the customer by pausing it out too long. But then as Tron said, if they're forcing you into that corner where you have to give the price, you need to be able to back it up on the back side of what the value for that price is. That price is only $99, and it is an awesome rate for their area because we have this great entrance gate that only people that have business on the property can get into, and et cetera, et cetera. Is those are the types of things you're looking for in storage? So again, I'm going to redirect them. I'm going to redirect them away from that price to get them talking again about what they're looking for in their storage needs to get them off that price topic.
Because in our experience, there are certainly some people who are only concerned with the price. But sometimes if they're saying, look, I'm only willing to spend $50, you probably have a unit they could rent for $50. It may not hold their 3-bedroom house, but it'll hold something, and it'll only be $50. So sometimes you can find them what fits in their budget. But most of the callers that we talk to, they're looking for value rather than price. And they start talking about price because that's all they know to ask about. And because when they called your competitors and they said, how much is a 10 by 10, your competitor said, it's $179. You want one? And that was the whole phone conversation. So it does take a little retraining to get your callers to have a conversation with you. And when you can do that, it works great. Now, of course, it doesn't happen on every single phone call, but you got to try on every single phone call, and they'll give you points for trying, that's for sure. So I know we're starting to kind of wind down a little bit, and I want to thank you, Poppy, for putting this together for us, and I want to thank everyone on the call for your time and attention, and please email us with any questions you have or give us a call.
Ron, there's one question. I'm going to interrupt you and jump in before I let you go that has actually come up a couple of times about using the caller ID number. And it's come up again. If you're unable to obtain a follow-up number, is it okay to create a lead using the caller ID number?
Generally, I would say at this point in time, no. People find it creepy. I would not do that at this point in time. If someone says, I don't feel like giving you my information, and you call them back off the caller ID, I think you have now gotten on their list, and not their Christmas card list either. So I would not do that. There was a time when we did that and people found it a little weird, but they were okay with it. Now I think it's too creepy. So I forget that. And also, if you would forgive me for the typo in our phone number, that's an interesting phone number on the slide there. But it is 866-639-1715. I'm not sure what you'd get if you tried the rest of it. The typo is there. So thank you, Poppy.
So you are quite welcome, and we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. We'd like to thank all of you for your great questions. We hope we provided you with some useful information. And just as a reminder, the webinar will be archived. I know a couple of people said that they had interruptions at the store, and we're hoping that they could hear this over again. Yes, you will receive an email with a link to the archived webinar so you can watch it again or listen to it again as many times as you'd like. And when you get that email, we'll also be sending you a special offer for Tron's book, Blend It Up. Make sure you watch your inbox for the email. Thank you again, Tron, and thank you, PhoneSmart team, and thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a great day.
All right, have a great selling season. Thanks, everybody.